Okay, so this is a basic camera track tutorial going through the animation process or the tracking process up to but not including the lighting. So to kick off a camera track, you go to your tracker tab and you click track camera. Now when you click that, you'll notice an effect is added automatically to your effect controls, and you will see that it is analyzing frame by frame, and you can see a progress report there in terms of time and frames remaining. Now I'll quickly talk through the settings here while that's analyzing. So beneath that you have fixed angle of view, and this we're basically telling the effect that there's no zooming in or zooming out, and we can change that if we need to after to a variable zoom, or we can specify an angle of view if we're using a fisheye lens or a GoPro or something like that. Fixed angle of view is fine. Now we have then these track points, and you can see there that they're set to 3D solved. Now you'll see the track points out here. They are little colored X's. Now I can increase the size there, and you'll see them a little bit more clearly. So these are our tracker points, and you'll see that they move with the objects. Okay, now because there's nothing moving in the frame, there's no person walking by or any kind of movement other than the movement of the camera, we can leave them all in place. If there was something moving that didn't actually belong to the scene, the geometry, the floors and such, you could select any one of these, backspace, and delete it on that object and get a cleaner camera solve. So this has solved the camera, and you can see the solve there because tiny X's are in the background, big X's are in the foreground, so it kind of knows foreground, middle ground and background, and we can see here loads in the middle when it gets closer to the floor. So this is a very feature-rich carpet, surprisingly. I was quite surprised myself when I did this that I got so many track points, but you can see there's a lot of grain, a lot of contrast in the little knots and weave of the carpet. Now you'll notice when I'm hovering through here that I'm getting a little disc. This is the target. So wherever I decide works from a 3D perspective, I can lock that down by clicking on it, and then I can click and drag it around to see, okay, if I slide it left and right, does it look right? If I slide it back, does it look right? And currently it does. So this would be a good way of doing it. Now, you can also, if you want to use more, if you want to decide exactly which ones you want to use, you can click and shift click on any 3 or more, and that will allow you to be a little bit more targeted. Or you can try lassoing your way through a bunch of them and see what you get, and that will no, can't get at my can't get at my disc, so or my target, so I'll do those ones. Yeah, okay, I can option click no, so that's a little bit of a design flaw. It's hiding the center of the disc. Now, to be honest, with this particular one, you can find your disc by hovering. When the disc looks like it's kind of sitting on the ground, you go for it. Okay. Occasionally, you see it kind of tipping on its side, and you know that that's no good, right? So I'm going to select this one, and this one, and I'm going to slide that back. Looks like it's doing its thing properly relative to the position of the camera. So the next thing I do is I right-click, I create text and camera, and that gives me a piece of text. Now the disk is still there, or the target I should call it. So what I'll do while I'm here is I'll right click again and I'll say create solid. So I have a couple of options there, and the ones that we'll be coming to in the next tutorial are create shadow catcher and light. But for now I'm going to just keep my solid and my text, and I can now, I don't have to, but I could deselect the effect. It's done its job. I can pull the playhead back and forth, and it actually looks like the text is stuck beautifully to that. So the next step then is to get the object in such a way that I can do something a bit more meaningful with it. So you'll see here it's actually quite well stuck. Now this is my end frame, so it makes sense for me to move this a little bit. But the rule of thumb that you want to keep in mind when you're moving the text away from the point where the target was placed is that the further you go, the more margin for error is going to creep into your track, because the camera solve is for that point, not for a point on the other side of the frame. So you kind of have to stay close to where you put that little red disc, but you have a little bit of wiggle room around that. So I'm going to get this text upright, so I can pull on the X axis here and hold down Shift, and you'll see that it goes up 45 and then it goes up 90. I'm going to change the text a little bit. I'm going to go capitals, and I'm going to change the color to white. And I'm going to change that to impact, just so I have a nice big fat piece of text. So that is, in essence, a camera track. Now I've audio on that, which I shouldn't have left. I might actually just swing it around on its y-axis while I'm at it, so that it looks a bit more natural as I'm coming from the first frame throughout. Now, if you want to put something in there other than text, let's see, I'll just have to pull something in from my folder. It doesn't really matter what it is, so I'm going to use this frame from from my image sequence. Now, so if I want to use, as I say, something other than text, we have to do a kind of a workaround. So here we have a solid that we added by right-clicking on the target, and that solid can now be used as a kind of a reference point or a base for swapping other objects in. Now, if you don't know how to swap layers for footage, it's quite straightforward. You select, I'm going to duplicate this first to keep a safe copy, switch it off. You select the target where you want to swap the object with. You select the object you want to bring in. You hold down Option or Alt if you're on a PC, and you drag one onto the other. Okay, what that does is it just swaps the layer. A solid is also a footage item, incidentally. You can see it there in the solids folder. So now I have my JPEG. I can get my anchor point tool. Notice how the anchor point is in the middle. I'm going to slide that on the Y just to get the base of the JPEG lined up with the X axis, and I'm going to pull that up. So that is how you track an object as opposed to a piece of text. Now again, this is just a raw object, no shadows, no lights, no nothing, and this is kind of step one.